Hello, I'm Glenn W. Hunter, and with me is Tamika Carter, and this is Building Girl Champs. What we're doing today, we're going to talk about, well, politics. We're going to get out there. So, Tamika, today, look, our topic is our new Black girl heroes. Um, Black girls need heroes, and now we're finding them in politics of all places. I mean, what do you think about the noise that some of our women of color are now making on the political scene?
I think it's amazing. I think the synergy of it is what is really the best piece. Like having a voice is one thing, but having your sisters with you to support you, like everybody's had that moment where it's just like, hey, hey, So as Black women, we love that. I think I saw a meme once that said, "I can do anything when supported by a crowd of my homegirls yelling, hey, hey." So So I think that's what's really just awesome about it, right? Because that is something that we have lost in some ways as women of color is that sisterhood, right? And that is like our hallmark. We have, entire societies and support systems built on our ability to support one another and be there for one another throughout history. So that's something that I think as we're moving into this new era and all our world and our country is making these changes, the power of women coming together and supporting each other at the forefront in politics is amazing for young ladies to be able to see right now.
I mean, just allowing me to name drop just a little bit. We have the five congresswomen who go by the squad, a little bit of ethnic flavor in there, and the beauty of what they're doing is that not just that they are co-legislators, but they're in tune to each other and they're supporting each other. So you have Ayanna Presley up in Massachusetts, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez out of New York, Ilhan Omar out of Minnesota, Rashid Tlaib in Michigan, and oh my goodness, I'm missing one. Jamal Corey Bush out of Missouri.
Yes.
But what's important is not just the diversity that they represent, but the geography that they represent. I mean, they have a good part of the country covered.
True.
As you think about the young girls that you interact with, are they even ready to absorb the scope of that reach so that
Well,
they're
I'm
able
getting
to
ready.
leverage it? Hmm?
So I'm getting them ready. I think that is one of the things that I have loved the most recently, since I relocated and returned home, is having girls from Oklahoma and Texas all in the same. I'm sorry, Oklahoma and California. Hopefully soon to be Texas, but having all of them in one group so you can have that sharing of ideas, and you have really two very different cultures, right? Like Oklahoma is very conservative. California has a much more liberal culture here. And so it's really amazing to have girls still, identifying some of the same issues, some of the same struggles of women of color, girls of color, and then sharing how they're getting through those in each of their locales. And so I think as we have the squad representing all of, these geographic locations, we piece together something where no one's left out, right? So you can be in Minnesota and feel like you're heard and represented. Even, even if she's not necessarily your representative, you still feel that you're heard because these women are here and they're making a lot of noise and they're doing a lot of things.
No, I couldn't agree with you more. I couldn't agree with you more. So, when you start thinking about not just the fact that they're women of color, but the diversity of it from having an Islamic member to having a Hispanic who is all New York, and on, that mixture, one, I think makes their dialogue more rich, which means they're able to affect more of our young ladies. But I think that there are things that our young ladies can learn specifically because those role models are in front of them. So as you're interacting with the young ladies that you influence, what type of mindsets do you want to encourage them to acquire using these particular role models?
so first off, again, like going back to the idea of sisterhood being a huge thing, being a mechanism of support, change, and empowerment. Each of these women has their own, has had their own adversities in life. And so I think this provides for girls someone that they can identify with in one way or another. And that's really important because a lot of times when we, teach women's empowerment and girls, a lot of times we teach history or Black history. We're going way, 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 way back to a lot of our foremothers like Harriet Tubman, but the girls don't quite, click with them. Some do, but a lot of times they're like, I just can't, I don't understand any of this. I don't understand how this relates to me. And so when you use women who are here, who they can turn on the TV, who they can, read their tweets, when you use that, you bring a very real element to them. And with them being younger women, they can see themselves, right? So this isn't, great grandma, it's going to be, a long time before I can get to this position. This is showing them like this is right around the bend. And so for me working with them, that gives me a better, easier, I won't say target, but something for them to look at, because I can kind of make that bridge a lot easier. I can say, this is basically what you would need to do in high school or, middle school or whatever. And then this is kind of how it went. So when you're looking at and you can use their stories to do that as well. So I think that's one of the biggest things with them that I am trying to work on with young ladies.
So I think the breadth of their experiences definitely can play a part in expanding the thinking of our young ladies as they're coming up. And I think that's going to make for more vibrant young ladies of diversity going forward, especially again, the ones that you're able to influence. And obviously, there's a domino effect to it. But one of the things that I'd be remiss if I did not point out with regards, to the way the squad just sort of exerts their influence is the fact that they do communicate, and they're very clear about the fact that they connect and communicate, talk about different bills and what social issues are important for them to continue to further their agenda. Is that a lesson is that a lesson for our young girls to adopt from the squad, that yes, we can share and our voices are stronger together?
I think that, and being out with it, right? Because a lot of times when girls of color, women of color are in predominantly white institutions, it's like it's got to be a secret that they, that they talk to each other. And so and sometimes it's because out of fear, because like I said, our voices together are very powerful. When we're all moving in the same direction, things change. So I mean, look at us now. But so that's just something that kind of, when you're dealing with them, you have to work with girls in a way that's personal and social. And so you have to show them the connection between them being social, being supportive, being collaborative, using synergy, and how that helps them, in their individual purposes as well as their individual well-being and socio-emotional functioning. So the more they understand that it just goes together like yin and yang, that being, social and being connected, and being able to push one another, being able to say, this is my friend, and I do, like, hey, what she said, I think that's a good thing. And it's something I see with girls nowadays, is that they're kind of turning the tide. We're getting into these spaces where before we used to code switch. And I've said it before, I noticed it in some of my therapist groups. I've noticed it with even some of the younger girls I've worked with, that they're like, I'm not code switching no more. You getting this. This is what you're getting. You're getting all these y'alls. Figure it out. And so a lot of them are doing that. And I think that's a thing, like with the squad. You know what? Back in the day, we used to have to secretly, push each other notes, and they couldn't know who was friends. But now, we're just moving forward with a lot more boldness. And so I think that is a lesson for young ladies, to move forward with boldness in yourself, boldness in your purpose, and boldness in your alliances and your sisterhood and what it represents.
Yeah,
Speaking of, happy Founders Day to all my sorors at Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated.
I appreciate the way you integrated code switching in there, because I think, again, with our young sisters, one of the things that they're very much aware of, not the fact that they're communicating, but how it's received. And the fact that they have the ability to code switch or they don't, the fact that it becomes less relevant, I think is incredibly empowering, because the code itself doesn't create the great idea. It's the intellectual spark that these young ladies are developing, and that's the advantage that they're creating. So when you see, the members of the squad and they're talking to their constituents, and then you see them and they're on the congressional floor, there is a switch in how they're communicating. How do you think that impacts our young ladies in their ability to communicate in a fashion they're comfortable in?
You know, I'll say how it actually affected me. I don't know if I've shared before a story where I think it was Judge Lynn Toller spoke at a Martin Luther King event. And at the time, I was a counselor. I'd only been a counselor. I'd never really spoken in any large setting. And I didn't know how, because like I had the issue of wanting to code switch, wanting to speak this way, that whole thing. Um, and I'm like, how do I get through an entire speech like that? And so when she came on, she was just talking, just her raw self, and I got it. Storytelling, points and all of that. And it worked for me. And I said, okay, if she can do this and she can be comfortable in this, then so can I. And so I think that's what it's doing for our girls. It makes them, be able to find their voice and be able to speak out in front of other people, to become more leaders, be able to be exhibiting leadership characteristics. So, I mean, even like after that, I think honestly, after that is when I did start speaking and doing more trainings and kind of things along those lines, because it's like, okay, I've got someone that, she got a check to come here, I'm sure. And so I can do the same thing. And so it just made me a lot more confident in being myself. And so that's something that, when I work with girls, I try to bring out as well. I try to give them a range and show them all kinds of women, because with that, they get to find their voice or something close to it that they can find comfort in, mimic, and, whatever, until they really get their own footing. So, I really think that's what it does for them. It just, again, puts people that are youthful in front of them so that they can see like, okay, I can do this and I can do it in this way. I can do it in my own personal way.
Outstanding. As I kind of wrap this up, coming in for a landing, I want to tie in the social emotional learning component that you just brought up. And specifically, as these young ladies are being empowered with you and the services you're providing, there's still that ability to actually have to manage their own emotions, that coping skill, and the trauma that comes in with, oh, well, she just thinks she's all that now just because there's a black senator in New York or a black congresswoman in New York. There's still that component of overcoming their I amness. So the question I have is, as our young ladies are getting more confident in their voice, in their ability to say, I can associate myself with that congresswoman because she's running things in her state, what advice would you have for them when they start getting pushback against this new empowerment that they're absorbing, so that they continue to push forward even after they get nudged back a bit?
So number one, with socio-emotional skills, one of the most important ones is mindfulness and self-awareness, right? You got to start there. You got to be aware of your own emotional reactions and triggers to pushback. You got to be aware that it's coming. And so you have to just kind of pay attention to yourself and your own bodily emotional reactions. So also with that is being self-aware in such a way that you know your knowledge, your education, and what you know and what you don't know. And what the limits of that are, and when and where to seek resources and support. So, I tell girls, if you're going to go against the system or go against the way that whatever the things are going, that is not necessarily equitable, then you got to have your backup. You got to have some data. You got to have some experience. You got to have something to stand on. You can't just holler. So you can holler, you're gonna get their attention, but once you got your attention, what are you keeping it with? And so, that's another thing, is just that's an awareness, that's a self-awareness skill, to to be aware of your own level of knowledge, and then know where you can find resources to actually reach out and get some support. Also with support, so not only your facts, I tell the young ladies, make sure you have an adult support as well, right? If these are teens or people who are minors, you want to make sure you've got a teacher, a mom, a auntie, a father, whoever is willing to kind of toe that line with you, so that when when the call comes to the house, your mom is like, okay, yes, I'm actually aware of that situation, and here's what I have to say about it. I'm glad you called. So those are kind of the three important pieces of that, right? Being aware of your own self, your own emotional reactions and triggers when it comes to racism and sexism and all that stuff. Um, Being aware of your knowledge and the limits thereof, as well as how to reach out for resources to support it. And then, of course, making sure that they have adult support, group support as well, sister support as well, and whatever they need to kind of drive home the points that they're wanting to make.
Incredible. Tamika, obviously there's a wealth of knowledge you've acquired. You're obviously very free with sharing it. And for my benefit, you're a licensed professional, so you do know what you're doing. How does our audience find you?
You can go to my website. I am at tamikajcarter.com. That is TAMIKAJCarter.com. If you go to my website, you can book a consultation, a free consultation. We will chat about what your needs are, whether it's program development, whether it's group therapy, or individual for yourself or your daughter. But please give me a call. I mean, please go ahead to my website and we will get in touch.
Outstanding. Once again, Tamika J. Carter. I'm Glenn W. Hunter. This is Building Girl Champs. It's been a pleasure to share this insight. Looking forward to seeing you in the future. Please like, subscribe, let us know how we are impacting you so we can give you more of the same. And always, always, I exhort you, especially in these crazy times as you're out there making your mark on the world, be safe. Thank you.